I'm going to make a bigger video about this in the future, but for now, here's a really quick explanation of everything that you need to know about dynamics processors. Chapter 1. What are dynamics? Dynamics in sound really just refers to the distance between the loudest point in a section of audio and the quietest point, and how quickly it changes between those two areas. If a sound goes from very loud to completely silent, or it changes from loud to quiet very quickly, we would say that it has a high dynamic range. If a sound stays very loud or very quiet, or it generally hangs out around one volume for a long time, we would say that it has a low dynamic range. Chapter 2. How do we change dynamics? If something has a lot of dynamics and we want it to be more consistent, like a voiceover for a YouTube video, for example, we would want to reduce or compress that dynamic range. Conversely, if something lacks dynamics and we want to give it more dynamic range, such as removing the ambient noise from a voiceover for a YouTube video, we would want to increase or expand that dynamic range. The tools we use for these purposes are aptly named compressors and expanders. Chapter 3. Dynamics parameters. All dynamics processors use the same three parameters: threshold, ratio, and envelope, which is further divided into attack and release. Threshold is the point where we want the dynamics to change, ratio is how much we want the dynamics to change, and the envelope determines how fast or slow the changes begin to happen or stop happening. Chapter 4. Upwards versus downwards. How the processors use those parameters is really based on the direction of the processing, which is either downwards or upwards. Downwards processing is much more common. Downwards compression takes whatever sounds are above the threshold and turns them down based on that ratio. Downwards expansion, also known as a gate, takes whatever sounds are below the threshold and turns them down. Upwards is, therefore, about turning sounds up. An upwards compressor takes whatever sounds are below the threshold and turns them up based on the ratio. And an upwards expander takes whatever sounds are above the threshold and turns them up as well. Since upwards dynamics processing is more about making sounds louder than about making them quieter, they require a lot more nuance and care when applying them to your sounds, but in the right situations are just as powerful as downwards processing, sometimes much more powerful. Now, there's a lot more information in this space to cover, and I encourage you to research as much as you can about the different types of dynamics processors that are out there. We didn't even touch limiting or wave shaping, single band versus multiband processing, or a whole host of other questions to answer. Still, I hope you found this video useful. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.